Hello, hello, and welcome to the Elevated Frequency Podcast. My name is Shannon Morse, and I'm sitting here with the lovely Lisa Kirby. And this is episode 9.
Hello, Miss Shannon.
Hello, Miss Lisa. So we had a couple weeks off here as it was Thanksgiving, and Lisa and I decided to take a very full week off as we have developed a certain relationship with rest with all areas. And if you haven't been able to tell so far, Lisa and myself will work nonstop because we absolutely love what we do. And we are also type 1s in the Enneagram, which generally means that we have high expectations of ourselves as one thing. So high performers in that sense. But Lisa, what are we going to go over today?
We are talking all things travel, navigating food and movement and all the things, whether that's, traveling for vacation or a work trip, or maybe for the holidays, staying at family and friends' houses, and then just some other general tips for getting through the holidays without wondering what this 10 pounds of excess weight is come January, and or being sick for most of it. So we got you.
Basically, there's a lot that we're going to cover. And for the travel aspect, this is fun because for two reasons. Lisa and I both definitely love to have new experiences very frequently. We both have moved very regularly. We like to stay moving in all ways all shapes and forms that takes. I just got back from traveling for 2 weeks in India. Lisa has some incredible hacks of living with her entire family, 2 young boys and her husband, in a van for a year. And so she can share a lot of the hacks about nutrition and movement. And essentially what we hope that you guys walk away with is that there really isn't an excuse. When we have some clients that are like, oh, I can't do this because I don't have the time. I don't have a refrigerator. I don't have a stove. I don't have a microwave. I don't know what, I'll have access to. We're like, okay, well then let's figure it out.
Right.
Like there's always going to be a solution. Let's MacGyver this. So
Yeah, there's food somewhere. We can make this work.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest thing with this, and especially what I noticed in India, which I was so grateful for, like every day I was like, oh my gosh, I am so grateful that I just have the basic knowledge of how to feed my body and what type of movement my body needs right now, like what's going to feel good, and also what's going to be the most efficient for the time that I have and how to make that work. And so it's like such a gift just to know how to take care of your car. It's like, wow.
There's no guessing. There's no wasting time on what should I do and trying to figure it out. You will literally take the knowledge in what we teach in our programming. You will have that for life in any situation. That is the best.
It's the best. Yes. So not to give us like a personal plug, but I'm going to do it anyways. If you guys are looking for a lifetime gift to give someone for Christmas, give them this. Seriously. There's no better gift unless you're going to give them investment advice. It's like really solid. But Lisa, you want to share a little bit about what kind of hacks that you discovered and developed through van life for a year with your family?
For sure. It was in a very similar way to the way you're looking at it and just traveling anywhere. That experience for me, I feel like solidified forever the notion that I can do this anytime, any place. It's almost like it needed to go to that extreme for me to fully believe and trust in myself that I can navigate balanced eating and moving in literally the most extreme of situations. So we had a 21-foot van, very, very limited actual living space. We had a stove, but we didn't really use it, like a gas burner stove, but we really didn't use that. We mostly used like this portable, like plug-in electric grill. That was about it. And then we had a mini fridge for 4 people. And so it was, at first I was, a little nervous, but just falling back on the basics was the best part. Starting my morning with balanced intake, which is plenty of protein, my carbohydrates, and a little bit of fat. And then my strategy from there was so simple to maintain. I just kept the middle of my day like lean and green,
Hmm.
because I knew for dinner was always going to kind of be a throw up of, where are we going to eat? Are we going out to dinner? And I didn't want to limit myself in any way, especially where we were traveling. We were mostly, well, for part of it, we were in Key West, Florida, which was a totally unique experience in and of itself. And I didn't want to limit myself at dinner time. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep it protein and veggies during the day. So easy. At dinner, then I had so much more leeway for more carbohydrates and a little bit more fat. And oftentimes I would come home after dinner and be like, wow, I'm still hungry. So I was never, I was still eating balanced during the day, so that when I got to dinner, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to binge because I haven't been eating. That's one of the biggest things, I think, when you are traveling and on vacation. If you are restricting all day to kind of like save room for evening stuff, that can really backfire, because how long can you use your willpower to overcome extreme hunger when you've let it go too far?
Hmm.
So that morning breakfast is essential, lean and green, lots of protein and veggies during the day, more wiggle room at dinner. And then again, I oftentimes needed a little something after dinner because I could tell I probably didn't get enough. So it honestly ended up being the most flexible, enjoyable experience and zero stress.
Awesome. And I think that's the big thing because with that kind of space, you don't have a lot of room to prep.
No,
So you're really you're almost eating more fresh that way,
100%.
right?
Everything was fresh, especially during the middle of the day. It would be, I'd either go to the grocery store or I'd go to a couple food trucks that were close by, and I had my kind of go to items, but the same strategies applied every time of focusing on mainly protein, lean
Mhm.
protein, and vegetables. When you have that protein and fiber to be the majority of your plate of the food that you're eating, that alone is going to satiate you so much and give you the things that you need.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, very cool. And you also had like a whole, like you brought your barbell with you.
I sure, yeah. When, that is a very telling experience. If you ever need to downsize from like, at the time we had this, 2,500, 2,700 square foot house because it was North Carolina, and which felt very spacious coming from California, and downsizing from that space to the essentials and figuring out what are the most valuable items to me that I'm going to bring in this very small van. That was very telling. That it was like, number one was my exercise equipment. No joke. I was like, this has to fit or it's not happening. So the weights on the barbell, they actually fit perfectly. And I will say that, I maintained my movement practice, of course, the entire time. And that's
Yeah.
also the other key.
Big, big, big time key. Yes. Okay. So as you're talking, I'm kind of thinking about we have these kind of different buckets, like if you are doing a road trip or you're doing van life. I've definitely taken road trips where I've thrown my dumbbells in my car when it's not a van, right? Like I don't have, like my car is a mini, so I don't
Right.
have room for the whole barbell setup. But we almost have these buckets. Like if you're doing a road trip, you'll basically be eating a little bit more fresh, whether you're in a van or you're in your car going to see your family. There's going to be certain places, especially in the US, where you're going to find you can always get something that's going to be balanced, going to feel good in your system at some of our larger chain restaurants. And the US is really easy for that now. So, one of the ones that, there's Starbucks pretty much everywhere on the planet. And especially in the US, if you are traveling cross country, doing a road trip, and it's breakfast, it's lunch, it's a snack, grab a egg white feta wrap at Starbucks. Also, the egg white turkey bacon. The reason why we're suggesting the egg white version is because they're going to be much lower in fat. They have a solid amount of protein, and it's going to be satiating because it also has complex carbohydrates with it. So those are always going to be great options. Also, Subway.
Yeah.
Like Subway sandwiches, you can moderate it and like modify so that you're not getting like the heavy sauces. Choose mustard over like the ranch or the buttermilk or whatever thing you might get. Choose lean chicken instead. They have actually pretty solid salads if you get a salad made at Subway. And I've like found that every Subway is a little different, And
Yeah.
so some people you'll be like, "Hey, can you throw some spinach in there?" It's just like the iceberg lettuce. And they'll be like, "Yeah, did you want spinach?" "Yes, please. I'd like some spinach." All of the spinach. So I find that it's actually becomes like a salad bar.
Yeah.
So there are going to be these really, really easy hacks. And what we were actually talking about yesterday we had our first elevated frequency group session. So now everything that we're kind of bringing to these podcasts here, we're now starting to hold a group session where we're actually doing more embodiment exercises and working together to just have this community where we get to discuss the things that are challenging us and the things that we're proud of and that we're up to. So I'm going to stop here in a moment, but what we kind of went through yesterday was some of our conditioned behavior patterns. And if you're on a road trip and you're conditioned to go to Burger King or Carl's Jr., you may not even see that there's a Starbucks. Your brain might even just block it out. So if you kind of think about it ahead of time and plan out your route and go, okay, I know that this is going to be there. I know I'm going to find a Sprouts on the way, or like, a really good, like maybe there's a Whole Foods or whatever you might be looking for, then you're going to be able to bypass your normal like conditioned behavior when you're on road trips or traveling or seeing family, and start to be able to build a new way of traveling while taking care of your body in this way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's totally, you have to pre-plan a little bit, but once you have kind of your go-to spots, I find that it's much, much easier. And something I was reflecting on this morning in preparation for this chat was thinking about, how do you like to be when you're traveling to a new country or on vacation or spending time with family? Like, who are you and who do you like to be? Are you that person that still takes care of themselves, or are these trips more of like an escape moment where you are overindulging and you're not even trying to take care of yourself, where you're just like, oh, I'm on vacation, I'm traveling, I'm going to treat my body more or less like a trash can and put all these things in it that I know are going to make me feel like crap in the long term.
Mm,
Even maybe in the moment it tastes amazing, or sitting around being lethargic all day and not moving your body feels amazing for a little bit.
yeah.
But I would say after a few days of that, even, like, it doesn't feel that great. So when I think about now about who I am and who I want to be when I'm in these other environments, I'm still at the core practicing those same self-care practices. They're still the foundation, no matter
Mhm.
where we are.
Absolutely. Yeah, super good point. Because I think the motivation is different, right? When you're going out and you're deciding that I'm just going to say fuck it and I'm going to like drink all the things and eat whatever I want. Sometimes the motivation is about like maybe you're a foodie. Maybe you love to try all the things and there's nothing wrong with that. But when we understand that you can do that to a certain level and also feel good if you know how to balance it out, then you're kind of at this different game. But I think for most of us, and Lisa and I can speak from experience because we weren't born like knowing these things, we learned them over a period of time and then adapted new behaviors. But I know that, I can remember a Thanksgiving where it was a potluck and I think 5 people brought different pies. And of course, you want to try all of the pies. And I think I was 16. And at this point, I had no idea about any of this. And we didn't have a lot of sugar in my household. So people brought all these pies. And I'm like, well, I'm going to try some of all of it. And my dad gave me wine for the first time. And so, or not it wasn't my first time, but at Thanksgiving, it was my first time. And I remember going upstairs and laying down to watch TV and having the worst food hangover,
Yeah.
like absolute worst, because I just had no idea that my body would feel like such crap after sugar and alcohol combined and too
Right.
much carbohydrate, right? But if I had known, then I may have gone like, oh, well, I'm going to save some of this for later. So I'll still
Right.
be able to have it. I'm going to have some protein. I'm going to make sure I drink lots of water, and then I'm going to feel fine and I'm still going to be able to enjoy myself. So it's more so like about the hacks when you understand the balance. Yeah, it's
And then
really
nothing really is off limits. You're more aware and you're conscious about what you're choosing. I think
exactly.
it also circles back to making sure in any environment, whether traveling or at home, if you are constantly depriving yourself and over restricting with food, this
Mm,
was very much my experience where I pretty much spent all day trying not to eat. And then when you get to that place where you finally allow some more indulgence with food, it's very hard to regulate. And
mhm,
so again, if you're it's easy to do when you're practicing moderation and balanced eating regularly first. And then when you take that traveling, I think what's so cool about what we find with our members is they'll go on vacation or work trips or stay with family and they come back and they're like, I lost 2 pounds. Like, what is
yes.
anniversary?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to make sure to go over some airport travel tips, because
Yes.
this is something like these podcasts, for those of you who are listening, they really serve Lisa and I greatly because we get to talk about all the things that we want to talk to all of our members about, but may not get the opportunity. So, airport travel tips. This is what I've discovered is that I have a little system, and of course we'll always get there, the time frame that airport allows, but probably a little bit earlier than that. So if it says 2 hours, it'll probably be 2.5 hours that we get there prior. And when we do that, that allows us time to basically like walk the extra distance to see what else is available in terms of food. Because at some terminals you'll find much better options than other terminals, and I've totally gone in and out of security just for the food.
Yes.
Different places. So one thing that is always super kind of funny and surprising is that the wraps that you find will always be higher in fat than the sandwiches. So when you see like a chicken spinach wrap, the spinach tortillas are always going to be higher in carbohydrates than the white flour tortillas. And I was laughing when I figured this out because I was like, we are so programmed to think if it's green, it's got to be more healthy.
Yep.
And but it's not. I mean, it just has more impact. It's not that it's not healthy. And then, so lean sandwiches, like usually chicken or turkey, those are always going to be helpful. There's usually salads at these grab and go places. If you do happen to be one of the, business travelers who has an Amex card, the American Express travel lounges are a game changer for just travel enjoyment in the first place. If you wanted to have a mimosa in the morning, you could there, and it's all included. But more than anything, they have a chef and that there is a buffet, and it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, it's food at all times, and it's all included in your membership. So you can go in there with your laptop 30 minutes early, get some work done, have your meal, sometimes like wrap up a cookie and take it with you on the plane if that's your style. So those are some travel tips that I've always found make traveling a little bit more enjoyable, and then also bringing something with you so that you are not at the mercy of whatever they're serving on the plane. Usually something that has fiber, protein, and making sure that you drink a lot of water. Just keep drinking water the whole time. If someone is like, hey, that's the third time you've been to the bathroom, you're like, you're right. And one of the reasons for this is because the elevation and the pressure is really, really takes a big toll on our brain predominantly. And I found that this was really fascinating too, because most of us who travel regularly and are traveling nationally are usually doing it for business. And it's usually like back to back travel. So you'll be traveling from one place to the other, get off the plane, go right into a meeting. But if you're dehydrated, your brain is the thing that's getting the biggest impact. So your mental performance is going to be, diminished if you're dehydrated off the plane. It's going to be diminished slightly just from air travel alone, but those combined, and especially if you decide you want to drink alcohol, then it's like a triple whammy and you're going to show up to your meeting and be kind of not on your best game.
Yes.
So those are some things that I've wanted to share for a while. There they are.
It's so good. And again, the key thing in pointing all of this out is like you're not eating. You're actually making it a priority to get balanced food in. It really makes such a difference. So you're not showing up at your destination and like, I will eat anything. I will say, after living on the East Coast for quite some time, and now I'm in Texas, not every airport is the same. So if you are from the Bay Area, where most of our clients are, just know that those airports and the selections that are available are very different than what you
Mhm.
might find, traveling across the rest of the states.
True.
So
Yes.
that
Although in Chicago, they had a pretty amazing vending machine that was all salad.
I saw that in your store. That is amazing.
Yeah.
So if you do find yourself in those kind of locations where there are less choices, I would always go to Starbucks.
Mhm.
You could barely find maybe that because the chains are different. So, and these are the places where you go to get a cup of coffee and it's like, no, it comes with cream and sugar. Like it just comes like that. You order a coffee. Oh, you want tea? It's sweetened tea. It comes
Ooh.
comes with very delicious. But what I find in those kind of scenarios, I always bring protein powder with me, and we have this running joke in our group of trying to get onto different airplanes and through security checks with like an unidentified bag of white protein powder may
Yes.
spark some very interesting conversations, but just having something with like one of the hardest things to find can be lean protein. It's easy to find carbs and fats.
Mhm.
You have a little bit of protein powder, where at the very least you could mix that in with a beverage or bring like a protein shaker, and then you can add water or maybe, whatever other like almond milk or whatever you're looking for. That's always an option just to kind of curb the hunger beast a little bit,
Yes.
and it'll just make for a smoother travel experience.
Absolutely. Yes, the protein, thank you for bringing that up. Huge game changer. It's like the obvious first step in my
Right.
mind, so I'm like, "You guys know that, right?" But thank
Yeah,
you.
bring the protein. Yeah.
Yes. And on that note, I thought about that definitely going to India, so I tested it out bringing white protein powder through customs, in a glass Tupperware container. No problem.
Yeah.
No problem at all. They were I mean, maybe that is a specific place, and that's not really what they're looking for.
Right.
But, I had a protein powder scooper in there. It was in my checked bag. It wasn't in my carry-on, so that wasn't really an issue. So when some clients kinda say like, "Oh, well, what's gonna happen?" It's like, "So what?" You ask them to smell it,
Right.
Like, they're gonna smell that it's vanilla or chocolate or caramel powder, and it's gonna be fine. I will say that, in traveling to different countries and especially traveling to India, I was excited because when I think about Indian food, I usually think in my head, "That's gonna be hard." Like, if there's any cuisine that's gonna be hard to navigate, it's Indian food, and that's really because when it comes to understanding the balance of the food we're eating, and the balance of protein, carbohydrates, and fats, and of course, we're looking at this balance because of the importance of regulating our blood sugar levels and providing us with the energy and the recovery that we need for optimum performance. And when everything is blended together, like it would be like in a soup or lasagna or quiche or, whatever these things, it's a lot harder to understand what you're actually getting. So I was like, okay, this is going to be a really great challenge. And the reality is, I'm still figuring it out because there are so many dishes.
Mm.
So many dishes. And I'm figuring out also it's dishes in a different language.
Right.
So not only figuring out like, okay, so aloo means potato. Got it. Paneer is the cheese. Okay, got it. Figuring out some of these things. So what I found, the couple things that I learned, very simple takeaways, is when you are in a different country and you don't know what something is, Google it.
Yes. Yeah.
Number one, Google a recipe and see what's in there, right? And then just estimate that if you're eating at a restaurant and it's something that's being made for you, not like it's a grilled chicken breast, but like it's a mixed or a prepared meal, that it's always going to have more butter, more oil, more salt, more cream, more spices, whatever to make it, more tasty. So just to kind of know that it's always going to have a little bit more. The second thing would be, uh, and this is, I kind of was like, duh, you dummy, kind of like towards the middle, because I was like, okay, there's got to be like a secret hack for figuring out Indian food. And the secret hack is the same secret hack that there is over here, which is like you navigate everything in the same way. Like, where is your lean protein? Like, you scavenge for like the lean protein. And in India, it was a lot of the kebabs. So we have our chicken and our lamb and those sorts of things. And then where are my fibrous vegetables coming from? I don't know if you saw this, Lise, on one of the stories on Instagram, but I found that they had a green salad that was everywhere. And that green salad was a plate of onion, like just regular like slices, circles of onion, radish,
Mm.
carrot, tomato, and cucumber. And that
Okay.
was your green salad.
So no lettuce.
No lettuce.
Got
Uh,
it.
Only one thing that was green, actually, which is the cucumbers.
Right.
I think about it. And I was like, huh, okay. And sure enough, when we ordered that green salad at the next place, it was exactly the same.
Oh, how funny.
So when you see a green salad on menus in India, that's what you can expect to get. And that was really the only salad that was available. Like, that was the only salad at your traditional Indian style restaurants. Even at some of like the buffets, there would be like this little salad bar in the corner that had like, five like leaves of radicchio.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
you're like, okay, great. I will take this one leaf and I'll put that on my plate and I'll leave the other four for whoever else might want those.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. It's making me think that, the standard like big green vegetable salads that we envision is probably a US thing, perhaps, or maybe just a Californian thing that has started the movement.
I think so. But what was interesting is that like I didn't see one grocery store anywhere. All I
Yeah.
saw were all of the carts with all of the fresh vegetables.
Yeah.
Right? And they did have cabbage, like, they did have, like, zucchini and, like, all of the veggies, but I didn't see a grocery store, but I also didn't look for one,
Yeah.
because we weren't cooking, right? So moral of the story, to make it easy for this, for vegetarians, it is gonna be difficult to get enough protein in without going too high in your carbohydrates and fats. I definitely discovered that. You can substitute by combining, your chickpeas with your rice or your lentils with your rice, because then you'll find that you get that complete protein when you combine the two legumes and grain. But at the same time, our chickpeas and our lentils already have a large amount of carbohydrates. So when you pair that with more carbohydrates, then you're kind of going to get a double up there. So you might think about substituting with different protein powders, like a vegetarian protein based powder, if you are looking to keep that protein up. Although, if you were just having like a vegetable side dish and then making sure that you got chickpea and lentil, or that was part of your meal, you would probably get enough protein, and just have a little bit more carbs. So maybe you wouldn't eat 4 to 5 times a day. Maybe you would only eat 3 times a day.
Right. And
And
like
kind
top it off with a shake or something.
of
So they
totally.
didn't have tofu as like an option?
At some of like the hotels that had continental buffets, they would have like an Asian, section and like a Western food, like where they would have fries. Um,
Okay.
this was hilarious. When we ordered like fish with vegetables, which they did have at many places, there would be like 5 fries like sprinkled on top. And
For the Americans.
yeah, I was just like, "What an odd number," you know?
Right.
And this is multiple times. It was like you have this beautiful fish, and then you just have fries.
Oh, like almost like a garnish. Interesting. Probably in the amount that would be better for us anyway, because a little bit goes a long way with french fries.
So true. So true. Yeah, really, really interesting, but man, it is delicious.
Yes. What I was thinking about when you were there is, because when I think of basically all other cuisines, most of the time it's what you're saying, it's this combination and everything's kind of cooked together, which is, I love. It tastes amazing, especially with Indian food.
Yeah.
Did you figure out with like certain sauces, like, okay, this one is going to be very coconut based, or the red curry versus the yellow? Did any of that come up?
There wasn't a lot of I mean, I usually kinda stay away from curries because it's usually a cream or a coconut milk base. So
Right.
when I see curry, generally, I'm like, that's something that I'm gonna have, like, a taste of if someone else has it, but I won't necessarily order it,
Yeah.
just because I know that there's gonna be just this additional fat that comes in from whatever oil or butter that they're just using to cook vegetables in general. But for the most part, when I would Google things, there wasn't really, this traditional name for sauces. There would be a traditional name for the primary spice that was used, like
Oh, okay.
masala,
Yes, yes,
right? So masala is a spice,
yes.
but then you'll hear that as, like, a name of a dish, like tikka masala, and so that's actually talking about the spice, like the primary spice that's in there. So I would just Google it and just make sure that in the recipes that I found, it didn't have cream, coconut milk, coconut oil, that it was basically vegetables and tomato as the base.
Love it. Uh,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most exciting things about trying different cuisines are the spices and the flavors. It's just, especially when you're eating very, very much like whole food based and in moderation, and then you experience this different cuisine. It's like mind blowing to me for the taste buds. It's such a beautiful experience.
Oh my gosh.
I love that you're touching on like one of our underlying strategies, whether you're dining out for one night at a restaurant or traveling, is really looking out for your fat content, because fat is twice as calorically dense as the other macronutrients. And not to say that it's bad or we need to be afraid of it. It tastes amazing. It can be very satiating, good for hormones, blah, blah, blah. But it's also a very fantastic way to increase your calories very quickly. So
Mm,
just being mindful of it. Like you're saying, okay, I'm going to look for dishes that are, not necessarily have this like hefty, high fat in it. It
yes,
makes everything so much easier. Then it becomes harder to overeat.
absolutely. And everything that was there, we didn't ever have to add salt to anything.
Yeah.
Like, the flavor was so rich and beautiful, and when I look at the ingredients, it's all spices.
Yeah.
And I was actually really kind of pleasantly surprised that the majority of the dishes that I was enjoying, they weren't high in oil or butter, actually. They were just really rich in spices and vegetables. And I was like, "Okay, I can get on with this. This is good." So, what I found towards the end is that breakfast would be egg whites, because you can pretty much get egg white omelets everywhere, wrapped in naan, so, like, making it a sandwich.
Yes.
By the way, this should be something that is here,
Yeah.
'cause I took one bite and I was like, "Oh shit, this is good."
Uh,
Like, "Okay, we found a winner.
yeah.
Next food truck idea. Anyone that wants to take it, it's yours, it's fine, because Lisa will most likely not be, opening up a food truck that I'm aware of." Um, so that was kind of like breakfast, and then whatever, like, leaves of vegetables were available or fruit. One thing that I did notice is that, when you're traveling, you'll have a little bit of constipation that occurs, and I always look for the fruit that's locally available that's best for that. It's just natural when you're in elevation and travel. And guava is really, really great for that. And that was plentiful, as well as papaya. So those two things, I would have like a little bit of that. Not too much because it's higher in sugar, but guava is actually very low on the glycemic index. So like half or a whole one, and you have like 5 carbs or something. It's really, really low.
Wow.
And also guava seed. I found guava seed and guava extract is really great for regulating blood sugar levels.
Nice.
So this is another fun thing about traveling is like when you're really interested in what's available to you, you can find all of these beautiful ways in which the natural food that's grown in the region really helps your body to survive whatever element you're in. And
Funny,
what was that?
funny how that works of, eating in alignment with the environment that you're in. It can be very supportive,
Yeah, who would have thought Mother Nature would be so genius? Huh.
right?
Yeah.
You mentioned in terms of just movement practice
Uh-huh.
while you're in India and just in general, what does that look like for you in terms of how you prioritize it?
Yeah. Well, I think you could ask Jeff this because I think you and I are the same in this way. Get really I won't be a fun person to be around if I haven't moved like intensely at least every other day.
Yeah.
For me, it used to be every day, and then I really learned that my body actually needed like a day of rest in between. And so I needed strength training every other day. So we both know, and this is helpful when you are with a partner or with your family, when you know that your body needs something, tell them so that they can support you so that everyone can be happy. Because if
Yes.
you're not telling them and then you're being grumpy pants, whose fault is that?
Right.
So we always look for a gym. So at every place we stayed, there was a gym. So basically, training with weights every other day. There was one hotel that didn't have a gym, and I made sure to bring resistance bands with me.
Nice.
And I always, if I feel like I really need resistance, I can always take my suitcase and, use that as resistance and do front loaded squats and, use it as a laying on my back and do presses with it or just do push ups or whatever. Uh, but I think more than anything, just like with fuel, when you get into a cycle where you're regularly already in like a movement practice, your body will essentially tell you when it's time to get movement in,
Mhm.
And so what I was noticing, especially here, because we did a lot more driving than we had anticipated, so a
Oh,
lot more sitting.
yeah.
I think we traveled like about 750 kilometers in that time.
Wow.
It was a solid amount.
Good
Uh,
amount. Yeah.
so I was like, dude, this is way too much sitting for me.
Yes.
I was like, "Can you drop me off and I'll, like, run next to the car?"
No, but seriously. See Shannon running down the streets of New Delhi.
Yeah, with the cattle.
Yeah.
Fine. So I think inside of that, it's like, sometimes we would have been sitting in the car for so long, we would have gotten into the hotel and I would just be doing push-ups and jump squats. Just like my body needs to move some of this through me. I need to pump blood and oxygen into the cells, like get that into my system. So not everyone's body's like that. And I've definitely conditioned my body to uh, just be sensitive to hearing that signal, and I know that you are too, Lise,
Yes.
where it's
Oh, yes. Even on, like, when we were doing van life and some days were, like, 10-hour driving days, I've worked out now in the strangest of places, like, on the side of the road after we already checked out of a hotel, and I'm like, "I don't care. I'm in the dirt. There's, like, this weird dust storm coming by. We're in the middle of Utah with no cell service, and I am doing a Metcon class of ours that I just happen to remember from memory with body weight only, and that was enough. It's like 15, 20 minutes, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm good. The
yeah,
blood is flowing, energy is moving,
yes,
and I am not gonna sit here sulking the rest of the day."
right. Yeah, it's so good, and I think, this is one thing, for like, not everyone is like this. Like, not everyone is like, oh my God, I really need to work out. So Lisa and I are, one archetype, and I'm sure some of you that are listening are also that archetype. So you'll be able to be like, yeah, that's totally me. But for some of you, that's not going to be you. But the thing to kind of instill here is that just understanding what your body actually needs to feel its best. And I think the biggest takeaway from just this recent travel to India was that when we have given ourselves the opportunity to learn what our specific body needs for fuel and what our specific body needs for movement, we are going to be able to support ourselves in any sort of travel scenario when we bring that into the picture. So, what we do in the Green Door in terms of educating per individual, like really helping them to discover what it looks like for them, how to feed and how to move your body, and also how to take appropriate rest. Once you know that, then you are going to be able to take that with you, and then you can navigate and regulate how you feel throughout your trips. And that's the biggest thing. So you're not like this, you're not just kind of flying by the seat of your pants and going like, why do I feel like crap today?
Yes.
You'll really start to be able to navigate that in a way where you're the creator of your experience.
Absolutely. And I truly believe each person has like a movement bucket of needed nourishment when it comes to movement and exercise. And for some people, just enough walking can be nourishing enough. And so I find that, like, for example, when we were at our retreat earlier this year, we did so much walking every day, just not even like we were trying to walk more than normal. It was built into where we were staying. And
Yes.
I was tracking my steps. It was like 20,000 steps a day minimum. And at
Yeah.
that point, it was kind of like, oh, if we end up training today, that's just like a fun bonus. But I didn't feel that like, oh, I have to move because I'm in this like inertia sitting deficit. So I think part of it is what does your overall movement bucket look like?
Mhm.
And if you find yourself like craving these really intense workouts once a day or whatever, take a look at the rest of your movement in your day. It could be because maybe you're chained to your desk 24/7 and you're like, this is my one small chance to get it all out, you know?
Yes.
And then you can kind of look at, okay, can maybe I could take a walk in the morning before I sit down to work, and where can I kind of, enter in a little bit more gentle movement so that it doesn't feel like I have like to put everything in this one bucket at one time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very solid point. I'm looking at we could just keep talking about this topic, but I think maybe we wrap it up here because then this is in a nice little bucket of travel,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Strategies for travel. So if you guys do have like more in-depth questions, questions about, traveling with family or what it looks like for you around the holidays, uh, reach out to us, whether it's a DM through Instagram or Facebook or whatever that might be, or comment in the comments here with any sort of things where you might want to know a little bit more. Um, and I think that's kind of a wrap for this one.
Yes. Let us know next topics. We're always excited and interested to share.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone who has tuned in now and in the future, and we will see you next time.